has taken over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall, coast to coast.
It's Ferrall Coast to Coast in the biggest way possible right here on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Good to have everybody with us here on a Wednesday. Carver High in for Scotty. Joe Lisis joins me momentarily. A lot to do today, of course. Plenty of football. We keep getting ready for the playoffs this weekend, Wildcard weekend. We have a big NBA slate tonight, a big extension for Kawhi as well. We have also NFL, another coach getting chopped. I mean, still with the team, going to be an advisor. Pete Carroll was chopped. That's how it goes. So you always get one surprising one. We'll discuss that in a moment, too. So a lot to do today on C2C. Lots of college rack tonight and NHL. All right, we start with the birthday roll call, as we always do. And I'll call it subpar today. Patrick Johnson, 26. Buda Baker, 28. Landon Collins, 30. Jake Delhomme, yes, 49. The big dog, Glenn Robinson, checking in at 51. And George Foreman, 75 years young today. Wow, George, who, of course, won a heavyweight title very, very late in life. Now, 75, still going strong. There you go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. All right, so we'll start today with Pete Carroll. That news just came down really within the last hour. We've seen a bunch of coaches get fired. We had a few in season. We had the Black Monday with only 2 guys. Yesterday, Vrabel, which was pretty big news. And then, there's usually one that's even more shocking. I thought Vrabel wasn't a massive surprise. I thought there was rumblings it could happen. I mean, the GM didn't get along. I didn't think Pete Carroll would be out in Seattle. So I think this is the one that kind of goes, whoa, Pete Carroll gone. Now, he was obviously up there and been there for a very, very long time. But Pete's still got a lot of spunk, a lot of energy. So as much as he wants to sit there and say he's going to be an advisor or the Seahawks are saying he's going to be an advisor, I'll tell you one thing. If somebody calls Pete Carroll tomorrow and tells him, I got a ready-made team, we're close to a Super Bowl, we need somebody to put us over the top, trust me, he's going to go coach them. We welcome in all of our radio affiliates, Ferrall Coast to Coast on a Wednesday. Carver High in for Scotty. Joe Lisis joins me momentarily. SportsGrid Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 159, Sports Byline, and, of course, the mightier 1090 ESPN Radio in sunny Southern California. Great to have everybody with us here today. So we'll talk about Carroll being out in Seattle. I believe that brings the number now up to 7 head coaching openings here, with now some very high-profile names and potentially another one to come. We're still waiting to see what happens with Belichick. But when you have guys like Pete Carroll available, Mike Vrabel, Jim Harbaugh, big names for some of these openings, we'll see if they are all going to find themselves some new homes. All right, we'll also start getting ready for this weekend. We've got Patrick Mahomes, Chiefs and the Dolphins, in what is going to be, as we've documented plenty of times, and you won't stop hearing about it, a extremely cold Saturday night in Kansas City. Not a good scene for the Dolphins as they get ready to take on the Chiefs. We've got the Browns and the Texans on Saturday with Joe Flacco today on the Broncos. What a hell of a story it's been with Joe going down there to Cleveland and leading the Browns here into the playoffs. Mike Tomlin on life without TJ Watt this Sunday in Buffalo. Never good when you got to try to chase Josh Allen around without TJ Watt, which is what the Steelers are going to try to do on Sunday. We have Gabe Morency, as always, in hour number 1 on C2C. We will discuss several things with him today as well. We'll get his plays for tonight, too. We have Jerry Jones talking about Mike McCarthy's future. Always good to try to stir up, some problems with your head coach. This is typical Jerry Jones early in the week saying, no, we're going to take it one game at a time. Now we got the order of him saying, well, that's not really what I meant. I don't mean that he could be fired. Yeah, typical. Always drama around the Cowboys, even when things are going relatively well for them here, grabbing the 2 seed, winning the division, and having a couple of home games. We've got playoff home dogs, playoff rushing leaders, receiving leaders, and passing leaders. I was talking to Davis about those yesterday. I have the full list of numbers for you here today that me and Joe will go over as well. Hour 2, other news too, Bears are keeping Matt Eberflus. He did have to chop the offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy, in order to do that. So the Bears, who are going to, we don't know yet, start a new chapter. Are they sticking with Justin Fields? Are they trading the pick? Are they going to get rid of Justin Fields? Are they going to take Caleb Williams? Matt Eberflus is going to be a part, apparently, of all of those decisions coming up here in the offseason. We got Sean Payton today, a great clip. I've got this really just for Joe. Great clip of Sean Payton trying to sell you that they could stick with Russell Wilson next year. Please. I mean, come on, Sean. Like, honestly, you benched the guy the last game. You know what you're doing. You're chopping him. You're sending him out. He's gone. These guys are amazing. And Titans GM Rand Carthon, it was a rough day for him yesterday because he basically had to go and clean up all the owner's mess. The owner didn't want to talk to anybody except the play-by-play guy, but Rand Carthon had to go and sit there and take all the bullets from the media. So we'll hear from him today. And then it is, of course, Wednesdays. It's Golf Wednesdays on C2C. Cam Stewart in the second hour. Me and him will do the picks for the Sony Open in Hawaii this weekend. Of course, we'll also have Keith Stewart in hour number 3, and then we'll get his selections for the Sony Open. We love Golf Wednesdays on C2C. Let's go, baby. Full field cut this weekend. Let's get it on. Some good names playing in Honolulu as well for this one. So we'll do the outrights. We'll do the top 10s, 20s. We will do the first-round leader bombs. We'll have all of it for you here today. The lion's share will have Davis Maddock with us as always. He has some NBA plays for tonight. We will discuss that with him. Coach Young in hour number 2 as well. A full slate, hour 2 on C2C. Coach Young in the mix. Cam, Davis, the lion's share. I mean, look at that. Getting it on in hour number 2. We'll have this day in sports history as well. Hour 3, we'll get into some other NBA things. The Clippers did give Kawhi a lot of money today. 3 years, $153 million extension. This is really the first year Kawhi's played every night for the Clippers. And he played pretty well. And the Clippers go and they want to lock Paul George up as well. So they just want to keep rolling that same train out there for the next few years. God bless and good luck. The Miami Heat gave Eric Spoelstra 8 years and $120 million to still be their head coach. And why not? He's the best head coach in the NBA. So I got no problems with that, with all that money that they're throwing around. We have amazing footage today of the Raptor coach who went ballistic last night after they lost to the Lakers. Our boy Darko Rajakovic going off after the Lakers shot 23 free throws in the fourth quarter and the Raptors shot 2. Some of the best audio we've ever had on Coast to Coast. We will get into the best and the worst against the spread in the NBA and the best over and under. And then a full slate tonight, including the best in the East against the best in the West. The Timberwolves, off of blowing out the Magic last night, are in Boston against the Celtics. So we will look at that. Washington and Indiana tonight. Philly is down in Atlanta. Oklahoma City's in Miami. Good game. New Orleans and Golden State. The big TV game tonight. And Toronto stays in L.A. The loss to the Lakers, they got to run it back now and play the Clippers at the Crypto. So tough spot for them. We will also get into college rack. How about last night? Number 1 and number 2 both going down. I said I like Purdue, Nebraska with the points. I didn't think they'd win outright. What a job by them beating Purdue. Purdue looking like March Purdue last night. And Houston, welcome to the Big 12. You're not in the American anymore. Losing on the road in Ames to Iowa State. So lots of good rack tonight. There's a few NHL games as well. So we have a lot to do. Ferrall Coast to Coast on a Wednesday. Carver High for Scotty. We'll bring Joe in next. Busy, busy Wednesday here on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. We get it all going right after this.
Fun to do because you could kind of, place a season-long bet all at once and just wait it out. I've always found that interesting. But New York is one state where it's a little bit unclear.
You cannot bet on basically anything that requires a vote. So you're talking about an MVP award, a Cy Young, a Rookie of the Year, anything where people at the end of the year have to vote.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Quarter of the man his dad was. I'm sorry, he's kind of an embarrassment. The only thing I'll give him credit for, which is the only thing he's ever done right in his life, is get that team to Las Vegas for $6 billion.
Teams that bring in a lot of transfers, well, I was talking to Jeff about this, they need time. They're at a point now in conference play they can start to get rolling.
Ferrall Coast to Coast Only on SportsGrid.
We spent all offseason where the NFL said, hey, just so you guys know, running backs don't matter. If we then this year give the MVP to a running back,
The irony.
I am disappointed that they lost to FAU because secretly I don't really like this FAU team very much. I don't know, they're just not for me. And now they've completely legitimized the Owls.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Bills going on the road to Miami Gardens, knocking off the Dolphins as 3-point favorites. They win it 21-14.
You want to lose like the Falcons did today, 48-17? That's probably bothersome. You want to win an ugly game where you throw 3 picks, but you end up winning the division? No one cares. Ain't nobody going to be talking about interceptions in the end zone tomorrow. You know what they're talking about? Hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers next weekend in the playoffs.
Football full circle. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
We'll look at the Heisman Trophy
The early line.
and what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterbacks, backup
Ferrall
quarterbacks.
coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time decisions.
I have no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
In-game live. Prime time.
Yard for a grand slam.
The bottom of the fourth inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports Rage
That was
Late
good betting.
Night.
We waited for 1.5. We got paid.
You did.
Didn't like the 2.5. Jumped on. There's no taking weeks off in golf betting ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Oh, it's about to be a party in here. BetMGM's got all the sports betting in one place. And it's live, baby. Ooh, we're placing money lines in real time. We got second half spreads and third set winners as they happen. Overs hitting in extra innings. Live is where the action is at. And with BetMGM, woo, I got the best seat in the house.
And we are back for El Coast to Coast on a Wednesday. Carver High in for Scotty. We'll get Joe in a moment. But first, we, of course, have to tell you that BetMGM has you ready here for Big Game 58. That is right. Bet $5 and get $158 back instantly. Place your first BetMGM Sportsbook account wager through the BetMGM Sportsbook app. You got to download the app, of course, on iOS or Android, or visit BetMGM.com. Sign up and deposit at least $5 into your newly created account. Place a wager in the amount of at least $5 at standard odds price. Once you have placed a bet, you will receive $158 in bonus bets, regardless of the outcome of your wager. That is right. You got to use bonus code SG158. That's SG158. BetMGM getting you ready for Big Game 58. We love to see it. Go out and get involved. All right. Every Tuesday and Wednesday here on Coast to Coast, you get the extended version of the very popular SportsGrid radio show Carver and Lisis, which airs weeknights at 8 p.m. East. And that is with myself and the encyclopedia of college football, the one, the only, Go for the Two, Joe Lisis. Hi, Joe. How are you?
Hi, Carver. Great week already. NFL action on the horizon. I might have a sizzle play for Saturday night, an NFL playoff sizzle play. But I love to see the coaches getting chopped. Pete Carroll in Seattle, chopped. I already know where he's going next.
I'm going to bring that up with you here. And look, this obviously just happened. And not everybody gets fired on Monday, Joe, when the season ends. Sometimes teams, especially when you have teams with guys who have been there for a very long time, that is not necessarily a decision that gets made in 13 hours after the game ends. You knew Rivera was getting chopped. I mean, he was in a complete hump. We knew Smith was getting chopped. He was a complete hump. Vrabel, it took an extra day. Carroll, it took an extra 2 days. But either way, he's out, Joe, in Seattle. And look, made the playoffs 10 of his 14 years there, 137-89, winningest coach in Seattle history. Went to the Super Bowl twice, won one of them, of course. A Super Bowl win. Look, I'm a little stunned by this one, Joe, and I know you kind of banged the drum for the last few months that maybe this would be a possibility if Seattle didn't make the playoffs after really surprising everyone last year and making it. Going back to Geno, they added, Smith and Jigba. They have Metcalf, Lockett, Walker, lots of good weapons on offense, and they just kind of collapsed down the stretch. Remember, Joe, they had that string of games against really good teams, and they just couldn't get it done in those spots. I still was surprised, Joe, and I do think despite Pete being, obviously Pete's up there, still one of the older coaches in the league, I think for the right situation, Joe, I think he could go in and still do a couple more years. He's still got that spunk, Joe. He does.
He is, Carver. And I know we talked about Vrabel all day yesterday and on the radio show, but I think Pete Carroll is head and shoulders where Mike Vrabel is, even right here, right now. I think he can coach up talent. He's a pretty good evaluator of talent. Let's not forget, made the decision to let Russell Wilson walk. Look at how that panned out. Bought into an aging veteran in terms of Geno Smith and over-exceeded expectations last year. Let's not forget, the win total last year for Seattle was 5.5. Every guru, every expert called this team potentially the worst team in the NFL. But guess what? I said it, over the 5.5. They make it to the playoffs. They go toe-to-toe with San Francisco and Shanahan for a half. They get beat up in the second half. They had a win total this year of 8.5, 9. Everybody that sold them last year bought them this year, and they were just a 500 ball club. The cupboard wasn't as deep as it was in years past, and that's why they underachieved. But I think Pete Carroll could coach a team like Tennessee, especially with young kids. He's a very good developer. Don't be shocked. And I'll tell you, dark horse, if he went to L.A. with Justin Herbert, the way his teams are prepared, I'm just saying they want maybe the sexy name Harbaugh or potentially Belichick. If he went there, don't be shocked. They would probably be one of the better teams in the AFC.
Joe, if Pete was 62 and not 72, I think you're right. I think a young team like Tennessee would be a great chance for him. I think that would be because he's great with younger players. He's great at developing talent. I don't know if he's got time to do that at 72. I don't know. I don't know if he could go take 4 or 5 years, 3 to 5 years, and that the NFL doesn't work that way anymore anyway. I think, Joe, what Pete should do is he should wait.
England?
Well, yeah, I can tell you one thing: he's not going back to New England. That's not happening, Joe. The way that ended way back when, 25 years ago. But I'll say this: I think Pete should wait. I think that he should see what happens this weekend because I think there is a team or two playing this weekend in the NFL that has Super Bowl aspirations, and that if they lost in the wild card round and saw somebody like Pete Carroll or Bill Belichick available, that they would maybe say, this is the type of Super Bowl winning coach that could put us over the top and get us to that next level. One is now I think Sirianni, if he lost on Monday night to Tampa, which I don't think he's going to do, Joe, but if he ever lost that game, and with the heat that he's been under the last few weeks, that's a spot where I think Eagles owners say, we got some guys available here. Maybe under normal circumstances we'd keep Nick and but we have a chance to get a Super Bowl winning coach to maybe bring this team to another level. And believe it or not, I'm going to say this, and I think it is true. I still think that if McDermott ever lost on Sunday to the Steelers, that there's a chance that for somebody like this, they would chop McDermott. But that's if they lost the game to the Steelers. So that I would wait around.
What about this? What about this? And I know this didn't work out well, but what about if I'm Woody Johnson? I give him $12 million. You want to coach a team? $15 million will get you Aaron Rodgers. We'll see, because they're going nowhere with Aaron Rodgers and Salah at the helm. Let's be honest, nowhere.
Well, the funny part is, Joe, and you bring up a great point. There's years the Jets have been hiring new coaches every 3 years now since they fired Rex, and this is a year where there are legitimate, proven candidates that are available to hire that are a lot better than the guy that they currently have in the job. And they're just going to be like, because Aaron can control Robert Saleh. So, I mean, Aaron Rodgers doesn't want Robert Saleh to go because he's basically, he runs the team with Saleh as the head coach. He didn't even play this year, and he runs the team. But you're right. If I was Woody and you saw a Mike Vrabel available and you saw Jim Harbaugh available and you saw some of the guys that are available, think about this, Joe. Vrabel, Harbaugh, Carroll, potentially Belichick by the end of the week, or who knows. That's 4 coaches right there with all these openings. Very intriguing, Joe. Very intriguing.
It is. It is. And I'm not saying the Jets are an attractive spot as much as some of the other teams, right? Even you got to throw Washington. We're talking young talent, young quarterbacks. Justin Herbert is the name and the brand recognition everybody wants to attach their card to. But if you have Aaron Rodgers, some of those coaches might be tempted to potentially go there with the type of talent that they have. If I'm Woody Johnson and, both of our teams are in the division, I throw $12 million at Pete Carroll and say, try and take this team as far as you can.
Look, here's the other thing. You brought up the Chargers with Carroll. Pete's owned L.A. in the past. He's owned L.A. He knows how to own L.A. I know that was in the college level, but they need somebody who can help them actually matter in that town. And Pete could do that, and not any of these 600 assistants that they're all going to interview now over the next few weeks. Pete would put the Chargers in some eyes in that big town. Joe, we'll do the playoff games later on. We got Gabe next. Coast to Coast on a Wednesday. We're back after this.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices. We're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division.
I don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby. The money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
San Francisco minus 120 to win the NFC Championship. It's the Cowboys with the second best number. The Eagles at 7-1.
What the hell's the difference between the 6 and the 7 seed? I need my guys healthy here to make a playoff push. They took the bye week and still won the football game. You want to talk about 2 franchises going in the wrong direction? The Eagles, ridiculous what they did this week.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
A lot of fun to do because you could kind of, place a season-long bet all at once and just wait it out. I've always found that interesting. But New York is one state where it's a little bit unclear.
You cannot bet on basically anything that requires a vote. So you're talking about an MVP award, a Cy Young, a Rookie of the Year, anything where people at the end of the year have to vote.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Bills going on the road to Miami Gardens, knocking off the Dolphins as 3-point favorites. They win it 21-14.
You want to lose like the Falcons did today, 48-17? That's probably bothersome. You want to win an ugly game where you throw 3 picks, but you end up winning the division? No one cares. Ain't nobody going to be talking about interceptions in the end zone tomorrow. You know what they're talking about? Hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers next weekend in the playoffs.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place I promise you, then Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
And we are back for El Coast to Coast here on a Wednesday. Carver High in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have you with us every day. We have our man Gabe Morency with us, Sports Rage Late Night, weeknights 10 p.m. East, right here on the grid. All right, Gabe, we got a lot to do today. There's action tonight. We'll get to that in a little bit. But first, I want to start with Carroll getting fired. Me and Joe were just talking about it here. I think this is interesting, Gabe, how on Monday it seemed like nobody was going to get fired. And now in the last 2 days, you've had Vrabel and Carroll both be out. And Carroll's interesting because he's a Super Bowl winning coach. He's 72 years old. And it feels like, Gabe, there's one job right now and maybe a couple if these teams lose over the weekend that could open that are like kind of ready-made for him, that he would jump back into it. He knows Los Angeles very well from USC. Could that be the spot where somebody goes to Justin Herbert with Pete Carroll?
No, I think this is the end of the road for Pete Carroll. But it should be noted, it's been said that he's going to be an executive, right, or a special advisor. I guess that was the exact term, a special advisor to the Seattle Seahawks. Listen, as you stated, he's 72 years old. He still has more energy than you or I do. Let's just be real as far as that's concerned. But he's got another year on his contract. So I don't know, Carver. I don't really think fired's the right word here for Pete Carroll. He's been there forever. I think this has sort of been in play that he'd eventually – look, put it this way, bro. I don't think people realize this. He makes like $14 million a year.
Makes a lot of money.
He's one of the highest paid coaches. Like, he makes more than Belichick does. So he was never walking away from that, bro. You know what I'm saying? Because remember, like 2 years ago, it was like, man, the game's kind of passing him by. It's kind of flat. And, you know what I mean? And I told people, I said, dude, no one's walking away from $15 million a year, essentially. 14, 13.8, whatever the hell it is. He makes a lot of money. He's well respected. So, no, Carver, I think this is an instance where he's going to hang around. He's basically going to hang around the organization. But as a betting man, I would bet big money that he doesn't coach again anywhere else. I think this is the end of the road for Pete Carroll. I think he really will be a special advisor. Special advisor means we're going to pay you, bro. Right?
Yeah.
That's what that means.
The money's a big part of it, and I agree with you on the money aspect. When you think about it that way, take your money, because the special advisor is nonsense. I mean, remember like they did that with Arians 2 years ago with the Bucks, and he's like smoking cigars up in the suite, doing. I mean, that's and living the life. Like, that's the way to do it. But Pete, like these guys, a lot of these guys, they got football, they live it, they breathe it, and they never want to quit. And Pete seems like the type of guy, because you said he jumps around, he's still got more energy. Doesn't seem like the type of guy who would want to quit. That's the only reason why I look at it that way.
He would be very good on TV. And
he would.
He's very opinionated. He knows the league like inside out. He's got a passion for the sport, and it would be less taxing for him as well. Right? Listen, I don't think, part of me though, you're right in a sense, Carver. I don't think that he chose this, right? In a sense, right? So you don't go from having a passion like this. I'm in the area. There was no buzz. Like, people are shocked in the area. It's such big news. Like, they cut into all the shows, like the local news special. Yeah. Oh my God, breaking news. And they're outside the stadium and sort of mixed like feelings. A lot of people, like, they're asking people on the street and all that. Listen, he was there 14 years, man. Right. So they love him. He won a Super Bowl, put him on a map and all that. But there's a lot of people who think, listen, it's time to sort of move forward into the modern NFL. But I would be shocked if he ends up coaching somewhere. They have a lot of talent too, Carver.
Yeah.
You're in a tough division though, right? You're in a tough division. You got to deal with the Rams. You got to deal with the 49ers. But it's a passionate fan base. It's a I'm not going to say they spend a ton of money, but they are rich. I mean, like it's a very rich ownership group. Like they'll pay you well. When you're there, look, Pete Carroll was paid very well. So I think there will be, and there's a lot of talent on the football team. And the thing is, Carver, Schneider is a really good general manager, bro. Look at the drafts that he's had.
Yep.
He's still there. So this guy, you know, if anything, they might even be a little bit better. I think a conversation has to be had as far as Geno Smith is concerned. It was a nice comeback story, but it doesn't mean he's got to be a quarterback for the rest of the world. You know what I mean? Like if I was Seattle, Carver, if I'm going with a new coach, I'd sort of think, you know what? I want a new quarterback now too. Like I want to bring in a new younger quarterback and sort of reset this thing.
I agree, and I think that's what you might see them move up in the draft to maybe get one of these 3 or 4 guys because they're not that far off by missing the playoffs that they can kind of get in that range where they can get there. I'm not going to talk to you again, at least here before Sunday. So let's get into it here. Bills, Steelers. Bills end up winning the division, getting the 2. I know both of us probably didn't dream of that when they were 6-6 back in November, but here we are. We get a home game. And they're better than the Steelers. We know that. I get why it's 10, but I'm nervous, Gabe, about this aspect of it. And I think me and you have talked about this in the past. They're not a team, even though being in Buffalo, that's built for the type of weather that they're talking about on Sunday. And that makes me nervous because I think that can neutralize the game to where it could become a coin flip game.
I agree with you. It's ironic, isn't it, for a kid that played at Wyoming and has a cannon of an arm. People rolled their eyes at me and kind of thought I was crazy for years. I used to tell them this. I said, Josh is not a good cold weather quarterback. He's not. And one thing, Carver, and I'm sure you noticed this too, he's never effing figured out the wind in that stadium, bro.
No.
It's like you figure, dude, you've played like 100 games here now. Like you figure how many times have you seen him sail balls over people's head in the playoffs and stuff? It's like, Josh, you know this stadium, bro. Take some air off the ball, bro. Like, you know, and he has no concept of it. He just doesn't. And you're right. Cook is a good back, but he's not the type of dude that you think, yeah, man, he's going to hang on to the rock in cold weather. That's the one thing for me too, Carver. I'm thinking, you know what? The one thing that can get the Bills is if they get Harris and Warren going, bro. Just old school fashion, sort of Michigan football. We're going to run Harris right. We're going to run Warren. Warren's pretty fast, man. Like that guy runs downhill. Yeah. Like, I wouldn't want to get him going. They're hanging around. It can make some plays. And the Bills have a tendency to play up or down to the level of competition, as we all know. Yeah. Right? If they're playing a really good team, they'll win a close game. If they're playing a really bad team, they'll win a close game or it'll be a battle. So, and I don't think Pittsburgh are a bad team, but I do think Buffalo learned their lesson from last year, Carver, in that Cincinnati game. Yep. Man, they were flatter than a 2-day-old Budweiser, bro. You know what I mean? Like, they've got to have more passion early in this game. I think they can do it. And let's be real. Without T.J. Watt, that's just a devastating blow for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They played 11 games without T.J. Watt over the years. They're 1-10. They're 1-10 straight up.
Yep.
Without T.J. Watt. He's that good. He means that much to them. I got Buffalo winning 27-13 or so in that round.
And
not
you know
a route, though, Carver. You know what I'm saying? But
no, not a route at all.
Know?
Not a route. And you know what? They've screwed around the last 2 years in the wild card round at home, too. You know, whether it was the Dolphin game last year with Skylar Thompson, you had the Colt game with Phillip Rivers. You know, I think they have
there's been some adventures.
They've had some adventures in this round. So I'd like to see them. And I think they also, you know, they've had Fournette in the cupboard here. They've kind of brought him out a little bit. This is the type of game where you unleash Leonard Fournette a little bit. Because unlike Cook, he's not going to drop the football. He's going to smash people with the ball. I think this is a big Leonard Fournette game if they can get him involved, even though he hasn't done much.
I'm
since
confident,
they picked
Carver.
him up a few weeks ago. I'm confident. I'm confident.
Dude.
Always a little nervous with this team, Gabe. You know that.
Oh,
always
course,
a little.
Of course. You know what is it? It's optimistic, cautiously optimistic. That's the term. We're cautiously optimistic, but it sets up well, bro. I don't care who we play the next game. You get KC, you get Miami and Buffalo, or if something happens in the other game and there's like an upset here, boom, we get the other, you know what I mean? Fine.
Yep.
Either way, fine. And then, boom, you go to Baltimore in a one-game knockoff. I really do feel the Buffalo Bills are going to the AFC Conference Championship game. I'll tell you, Carver, one game this week, since we're not going to talk, I really do like. and I hate to do it because I'm a Michigan fan, and I got a soft spot in my heart for the Lions, and Bills fans were like cousins. Of all teams they had to get, it was just like the worst, worst of the worst. And not just Stafford. You got the Rams are hot, bro. They're like the Bills. Like they don't lose. Like the Rams don't lose, right? And they're red hot right now.
Yep.
You got McVay versus Dan Campbell a week to prepare for a playoff game.
Big advantage.
I got Nakua and Kupp versus that secondary, bro. They're going to get picked apart. Rams win the game outright.
I was going to ask you there, so nice job by you if there was any dogs you liked this weekend and went outright, and I'm kind of with you on the Rams. All right, I got like a minute left here. There's a lot of NBA tonight. Man, we're going to play the clip later of the Raptor coach Darko going ballistic. With the free throws, they got screwed against the Lakers. Now tonight, they're still in L.A. They got to play the Clippers tonight. There's a lot of NBA games.
Yeah, I wonder, the Raptors don't do load management, and they're pretty young. They don't do it, and it's going back to back. I mean, Carver, they're staying in a hotel across the street from the arena. So it's like, all right, they should be in a pretty bad mood after last night. I don't understand the point spread here. I think it's too many points at 10.
Yep.
Like, the Raptors are good since this trade. They're covering. The Knicks are winning all the time. The Raptors are playing well, too, since this deal. It's a lot of points there. I'm going to keep it simple, stupid, and just keep on riding this Pacer over wave. It's like 252 tonight. We'll jump on it. I don't know because it's still early in the day, but what am I missing with the T-Wolf number here? I get that they played last night.
Right.
Still, you get a lot of points in a game that they're going to be fired up for.
I'm with you. I'm on the T-Wolves tonight with those points. And you tweeted me about the Islanders and the Canucks last night. Jeez. I mean, the Canucks, they ripped them up.
New Jersey, Rangers, Islanders, boom, boom, boom.
Ripped them up. No problem whatsoever.
They're like a Gambino, bro. They whacked more people in 4 days in New York than they did.
Sports Race late night, NBMEs.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now, we saw a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I don't care if they win, because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
San Francisco minus 120 to win the NFC Championship. It's the Cowboys with the second best number. The Eagles at 7-1.
What the hell's the difference between the 6 and the 7 seed? I need my guys healthy here to make a playoff push. They took the bye week and still won the football game. You want to talk about two franchises going in the wrong direction? The Eagles, ridiculous what they did this week.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
A lot of fun to do because you could kind of, place a season-long bet all at once and just wait it out. I've always found that interesting. But New York is one state where it's a little bit unclear.
You cannot bet on basically anything that requires a vote. So you're talking about an MVP award, a Cy Young, a Rookie of the Year, anything where people at the end of the year have to vote.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Bills going on the road to Miami Gardens, knocking off the Dolphins as 3-point favorites. They win it 21-14.
You want to lose like the Falcons did today, 48-17? That's probably bothersome. You want to win an ugly game where you throw 3 picks, but you end up winning the division? No one cares. Ain't nobody going to be talking about interceptions in the end zone tomorrow. You know what they're talking about? Hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers next weekend in the playoffs.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
And we are back for El Coast to Coast on a Wednesday. Carver and Joe Lisis in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us. All right, Joe. It's funny. We're going to talk about Eberflus later. I mean, what do you do right now, Joe? Bears are keeping Eberflus because Gabe. We were just talking about it with Gabe during the break, and he made a very interesting point. We both agree with it. If the Bears are keeping Eberflus, now they made him chop the OC. What was his name, Joe? Luke something or whatever, Gentry, whatever. Or am I thinking of the guy that Vrabel was yelling at the Titans? Gentry.
Luke Gentry. Gentry. You're thinking of the
yell at him. The reporter getting yelled at by Vrabel. Luke, your boy Luke. So he's out, and the DC left in the middle of the year. Remember, he had that whole fiasco going on. So Eberflus gets to stay in Chicago, and he's got to now hire a new OC and a new DC, new offensive and defensive coordinator. So and the point being, that smells like keeping Justin Fields, right? Because if you were going to start fresh with Caleb Williams as your quarterback in like a new era of Chicago Bear football, wouldn't you want to start everything fresh? Like start your new quarterback with a new coach, do everything like that, Joe? Doesn't it seem like they're going to keep him now?
Yes, it does. And you don't want Eberflus coaching up a player like Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels. I don't care. Michael Penix, whoever you get, if you were going to draft a quarterback. So that's not the guy. Look at what he did in terms of this offense. I understand the defense is good, Carver, but look at what they did in the draft. Now that Eberflus is here, you have to draft offensive talent. If you're keeping Fields, which it looks like they do, you got to get a Marvin Harrison Jr., Marvin Harrison Jr., DJ Moore. Now you're cooking with fire, baby. I mean, they have to draft offensive weapons or address more of it in terms of free agency. Again, I never thought the play calling was good from an offensive perspective. Defensively, they got better once they added Sweat to that front seven. But again, the defense was never really the issue. It was developing Justin Fields and developing the offense, and they haven't done that.
Yeah, Joe, I think if you're going to do that, obviously you need to get I'm going to say Harrison Jr. You can't go too far down, Joe, if you want him.
No, you got to get a playmaker.
Right, but I'm saying you can't fall that far down the board. Like, there's going to be teams that want to get to that one. I mean, we saw Carolina do it from 10 last year and go up to 1, but
Carver,
I don't think you can't go that far down. Well, I was going to ask, is it what's the drop off from Harrison Jr. to Neighbors? If you were picking 8, 9, 10, is there that much of a big drop off?
No, not me. Not in my. And look at the pedigree. We always talk about the pedigree and the lineage of LSU
receivers have been. LSU receivers have gotten it done.
OBJ, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Malik Neighbors set the school record. He set the school record by Josh Reed. That's how good he was. So we got to see if Brian Thomas stays. That's another name. He's a bigger body. Right now it looks like he's staying in Baton Rouge. But Malik Neighbors, if you get Neighbors or, Marvin Harrison, that's a significant upgrade with DJ Moore. I would say Harrison is probably a better fit in Chicago just because of playing at Ohio State a little bit cold weather.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Joe, let's get to some of these games this weekend. Let's start with the Chiefs and the Dolphins. Of course, we are hearing how bad the weather's going to be. It's going to be less than 0, one of the coldest games in NFL playoff history. That doesn't matter much to Patrick Mahomes, Joe. He's never played a road game in the playoffs in his life. If he wins this, that's going to change, hopefully. But he hasn't in his life. He's going to be in the comfy confines, as cold as they are, of Arrowhead. It's the playoffs now. They haven't had the best year, not the typical Chiefs season, but we turn the page and start anew. Here's Mahomes.
It's going to be prepared to go. I mean, now it's everybody's records. There's no record. Everybody's going out there to play and to win games, and everybody believes they can win the Super Bowl. So this is when the best football is played, and it's all the mistakes are magnified, but all the successes are magnified. And so you just go out there with the mentality, I'm taking one play at a time, put my best effort forward, and see what happens. I think it's just everything you've worked for all season long is on the line. I mean, that's basically it. I mean, everybody's in the same position, but when you put in the time and effort every single day and you spend time away from your family, it's for these moments. And it excites me to have that pressure on you and to be able to go out there and try to perform at the highest level. And this is what you watch growing up. Even me, who I wasn't necessarily the biggest football fan growing up, you watch these playoff games, and you get to go out there and have the opportunity to play in them, and you never know when you're going to get another one. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, Joe, this has moved, a little bit each day, it feels like. I mean, it opened around 3.5. It was 4 yesterday. Now it's 4.5 for the Chiefs, and flat 44 the total. I know how much you love that. But do the Chiefs also, I guess you're feeling, cover this 4.5, even though it's on the rise?
I think they do. Again, I don't know if the Dolphins defense could shut down Pat Mahomes. I think they get right in regards to this ball game. There's no way, Carver, this game could sail through that total. Absolutely not. Too cold. It's going to be a rock. I mean, this game's got 13-7. This game's got 13-7 written all over it. I don't see any way this game gets into the 40s. I'm willing to take this game into the 60s. Alt. Highest scoring game of the weekend. Yep. Mahomes 300, Tyreek $175. Guys are going to be flying up and down the field. Kansas City wins.
This has not been a good situation for the Dolphins since 2017 in cold weather games, and this is less than 40 degrees. I mean, this is going to be less than 0. They're 0-9 straight up. They're 2-7 against the spread. Of course, the single-digit temperatures are expected.
That's good.
That's a great 0-9 straight up.
Yeah.
You don't want to go against that.
Where's my head coach now, McDaniel, with the hand in the pocket and
I want
winning
the shirt, right? I wish it was colder. Remember you wore those before the Buffalo game last year? I wish it was colder. He needs to get that shirt out.
Tough guy now, huh? All of a sudden he's looking down with the player. Yeah. He's not looking at the camera. He can't look eye to eye. Mr. Tough Guy, Mike McDaniel, loves putting up records on aging veterans like Dan Marino, but can't win a road playoff game. Step up, guy. Your defense is gutless, and I'm a Dolphin fan.
A very, very tough spot for them, Joe. I wish they were full strength. I mean, I think if they were full strength, maybe you would get more of the game that you're talking about. I can't be with you on this over. I just can't, because the Dolphins I think they're going to have problems, Joe. I think you have guys with injuries who even are going to come back, and Waddle and Mostert and these guys, where you're playing in a type of cold, Joe, where those things are going to get aggravated quicker than they would in a normal situation, right? I mean, you get one little pop in that -5, -10, little wind chill. It just hurts a little bit more, when you're in those situations. So
what do you think?
They got nobody on D.
2013, 23. What do you think?
I don't know if the Dolphins are scoring 13. I think they're going to be completely turned off in this game. I think it's like 20-7, maybe 20-10, Joe. I think in that area,
playing in college, right around there, and playing in high school, when you hit that ground and it's grass and it's sub 30 degrees, it's like hitting concrete. That helmet doesn't give in any.
Not a good situation.
It's like falling from 10. It's like falling from like a 30-story thing there. You hit boom. It hurts.
They will not have those kind of problems in the early game on Saturday. That is in Houston, inside in the cozy confines of NRG, as we will have the Texans and the Browns getting together. What a story it has been, Joe, with Joe Flacco, of course, basically getting off the plane Thanksgiving weekend and joining the practice squad, has stepped in and helped lead the Browns into the playoffs. And he's got a lot of playoff success. Might have been a long time ago, but he's got a lot of playoff success under his belt. Here's Flacco.
I think anytime you get to be in the playoffs and win football games, there's some party that takes pride in that, no matter where it is. This is what this is what we go to work for every day, is to be in this position and to play these types of games. So I think we should all hold our head high. Like, we earned the right to be playing this Saturday, and you should, gain something from that. But like I said, once you lace them up and once you're actually out in the field, none of that matters.
None of it matters. This hasn't budged, Joe, all week. 2.5 for the Browns. Hasn't moved. 44.5 for the total. Hasn't moved. There hasn't been anything happening here. Do you expect maybe a little bit of that to start coming in on Friday or early Saturday before the game? Will this get to 3, do you think, before it kicks off?
It might, but I think they have it priced pretty well because think about it. I mean, the Browns beat them up when Case Keenum was the quarterback, right? It's in their spot in a rematch type of situation. C.J. Stroud is battle tested. And you have DeMeco Ryans, one of the best game planners and defensive-minded head coaches, playing at home in a rematch type of situation. This is a tough spot. I lean to the Browns in this ball game. I lean to the under 2 because I think both rushing attacks will have to be prevalent. But give me the Browns. I think the Browns win this game like 23-17, something ugly like that. Like a 40-point. I think defense will take over in both of these sides. So I'm going to lean with the more experienced quarterback and the more complete team, which I think is the Browns. But it's going to be close, I believe.
Going to be close, you believe. I think it's going to be a lot closer, clearly, than the last time that they played. I think it's over, though, Joe.
14
I think it's over,
like that.
Believe it or not. As good as the Browns' defense has been this year, and they're a very good unit, they've also had some games, Joe, where the games got a little zany. Whether you think back to that game in Indy that they played with, they've had some crazy games that they've been a part of. Jacksonville game was crazy that they played at home. There was a ton of points scored in that game. So I kind of lean to the over, Joe, believe it or not, for Saturday afternoon. Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I lean to the over.
I don't like that total. We might have to take some props on the running backs there.
Oh, yeah, they're going to run it is what Joe says. Mike Tomlin has a very big problem on Sunday afternoon in Buffalo. He doesn't have T.J. Watt, and that has been a really big problem for him in his career. Here is Tomlin talking about the absence of Watt.
There's a lot to be excited about from a challenge perspective, venue, life without TJ, and obviously playing without TJ is significant. But to be quite honest with you, we've played without a lot of people this year. It's just another opportunity for us to strike a blow for team and to display what team really means, a collective of individuals that work together in an effort to produce an outcome. It's not going to be a one-man job in terms of replacing TJ, just like I stood before you and said similar things when Cam Hayward missed a block of games. It is going to be a committed approach. Even in doing so, we better strengthen our output in other areas because TJ is one of a kind.
You're right about that. And no disrespect to Cam Hayward, Joe, but Cam Hayward's not TJ Watt. They have played 11 games without TJ Watt in his career. They are 1-10 in those games, Joe. That is just straight up. They've lost 10 of the 11 games where Watt has not been out there. This is still a 10 for the number, and the total's down to 36.5 because every day it seems like the weather's getting worse for Sunday in Buffalo.
Yeah, I can only lean Buffalo here, Carver. A Billy Club special. They're no shot. I'm telling you, Mason Rudolph,
no shot.
James Cook, $1.80 on the ground. No shot.
$1.80. Coast to coast on a Wednesday. We'll come back. More to do after this.
Quarterback at quarterback. We're going to lay some juice. We're going to have some dog prices, and we're going to go right in the middle.
Because I don't know what they're doing. To me, they're in a complete rebuild, Kev.
Go run, run, run. That's where overbackers on this 51.5 shot.
So right now he's all a little bit more over money, but it's hovering right around.
The winner of this game will be the division
I don't care if they win because all we care about is the money, baby, the money.
Pro Football Today. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
San Francisco minus 120 to win the NFC Championship. It's the Cowboys with the second best number. The Eagles at 7-1.
The hell's the difference between the 6 and the 7 seed? I need my guys healthy here to make a playoff push. They took the bye week and still won the football game. You want to talk about two franchises going in the wrong direction? The Eagles, ridiculous what they did this week.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
It's a lot of fun to do because you could kind of, place a season-long bet all at once and just wait it out. I've always found that interesting. But New York is one state where it's a little bit unclear.
You cannot bet on basically anything that requires a vote. So you're talking about an MVP award, a Cy Young, a Rookie of the Year, anything where people at the end of the year have to vote.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Bills going on the road to Miami Gardens, knocking off the Dolphins as 3-point favorites. They win it 21-14.
You want to lose like the Falcons did today, 48-17? That's probably bothersome. You want to win an ugly game where you throw 3 picks, but you end up winning the division? No one cares. Ain't nobody going to be talking about interceptions in the end zone tomorrow. You know what they're talking about? Hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers next weekend in the playoffs.
Football full circle, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
And we are back for Coast to Coast here on a Wednesday. Carver and Joe Lisis in for Scotty. Great to have you with us. Joe, we are not the only ones who think that Miami's going to have a very tough time in Kansas City with that cold weather on Saturday night. Here we go from earlier today with the fellas on the early line. Boomer Esiason also thinks it is going to be very tough for Miami in Arrowhead.
I also think that Miami is going to struggle in frigid tempers at Arrowhead. Saturday night, that's going to be a very difficult game for Miami. They're a team that has been torn apart by injuries. What was one of the best stories of the year going into December has turned out to be one of the bigger disasters as they start to now fall apart here late in the season and obviously the first week of the playoffs.
Great job there for Boomer this morning with the guys. Of course, the early line every morning, 8 to 11 a.m. East, right here on the grid. Everybody seems to be on that bed, Joe. I think you're the only one that I've heard and you're going to have a chance for a big I Said It coming up on Monday. You're the only one who think that this is going to be some kind of track meet on Saturday night. So, I mean, everybody else, pretty much thinks it's going to be a very tough to navigate, -10. But yes. You think the game's going to be 45-35. So God bless you.
Fast and loose, baby. Fast and loose.
Fast and loose. You think the game's going to be fast and loose. I know.
There's no shot this game gets over the 44. Here's what I'll say.
No shot.
All right, you want to know how I think, okay? All right, you got two good quarterbacks. Mahomes is great, okay? You have fast players everywhere. Tyreek Hill, Rashee Rice. You got Travis, right? They're gonna throw it everywhere. Not only that, the total opened up at 47.5. It's down to 44. Still mid-40s. Look at the Buffalo game. Bad weather. 30s, right? Why isn't this game at 34 then if they can't move? The books know something. Alt. It gets to the 60s.
I'm going to zig when everyone else zigs.
That's
Here we
it.
go for
Bye,
Joe on
bye.
Saturday night. Buy it. All right, we'll come back. Hour 2, coast to coast. Big hour. We got Cam with the golf. Lions share with Davis. Coach in the mix. We're back after this.